Welcome to the Media Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vedabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And Kenton, today is the day we're recording this, the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Happy birthday, Jaws.
For sure.
It's 50 years old. And of course, it's one of my favorite films. Unfortunately, I cannot go see. I totally thought I was going to be able to go see it in the theater on the anniversary. But there is supposed to be a theatrical release, but it's not going to happen until later on in the summer. It's in August, apparently. That's when they're doing it.
Come on.
God forbid they would actually release it on the anniversary. Like, what? What's going on, you think?
I don't know. I mean, how many times I've seen Jaws 1,000 times at this point. Have I ever seen it in the theater? I don't think I have, actually. I think I was just a little bit too young to go to. I mean, you know what? The drive-in movie is where people my age saw Jaws,
Right?
or because you didn't,
right?
yeah, and people didn't. You didn't need to be of a certain age. They just let you into the drive-in. Okay, so that's where lots of kids saw it. But
did they show the original Jaws when like a Jaws sequel was released, and they do like a marathon of Jaws movies and stuff like that?
No, I don't think so. And I think even then, people, until Godfather and Star Wars, people thought sequels were trash, and they kind of were.
Yeah,
and I think
Jaws reinforced that for sure.
Right, Jaws 2 was not. People were like, "That's crap." Like, who cares about that? But then they didn't see what was coming, which was even worse movies. So now Jaws 2 is actually pretty good in the overall thing. But I mean, I love the movie Jaws, and I'm glad. Although this week, I have to say, even though I love the movie, I got kind of sick of the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Like it's like the 50th anniversary of SNL or whatever. We're like, okay, enough already. Like, geez, like how much of this is there? How much content do we need on this topic? And the other thing is when you've loved the movie for a long time and then a bunch of people discover it and you're kind of like, yeah. Well, I know. I've been talking about this for 50 years, whatever.
I think I think Hollywood wants to remind people of when it was awesome.
Yeah.
Even though the reason Jaws is awesome, there's many reasons why Jaws is awesome, and a lot of them are by accident, because it was like,
Yep.
The reason he doesn't show the shark very much is because the shark was broken a lot of the time. And he had to figure out a way to shoot around that. So, and it builds the suspense more because we don't see the shark. We don't see the full thing until the end. And I think a lot of movies copy that, but it was done by necessity at the time. I love the story about how Jaws was made. There's a great podcast called Blockbuster. I can't remember, one of the seasons is about Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, maybe even the first season of that kind And it's about how they were kind of had this friendship going when they were both making these amazing films in the 70s in Hollywood. And Jaws, for Steven Spielberg, that was his first major Hollywood film. I think it's a perfect movie. I can't find a single thing wrong with Jaws. It's an amazing movie. I'm disappointed that I'm not going to be able to go see it this weekend, but I will watch it this weekend. I own it, of course. And I will go see it in the theater when it is released in August. I'll definitely get out to see it because I've never seen it in the theater.
Yeah, I would like to see it in a theater. I own the movie too, and I watch it every summer. And it's also on TCM a lot, like just flipping, there it is. Oh, okay, and watch it again. I actually heard a very useful podcast last week. It was the New York Times book podcast where they compared, it's like only half an hour long, but they compared Peter Benchley's book to the movie. And how Peter Benchley, is that his name? Did I get that right? That sounded weird. Okay. Yeah, Benchley for sure. But they compared the book to the movie and basically said the film does a really good job of taking out parts of the book that are irritating, or that people who've seen the movie and then read the book are kind of like, what the hell? Like someone's wife is having an affair in the book and stuff, like things like that just they're side stories that don't add anything to the general narrative. So they say and also apparently who lives and who dies is different in the book than from, and I admittedly didn't listen to that part too closely because I thought, oh, if I read the book, I'd like that to be a surprise, sort of see how that plays out. Yeah. So it might be worth reading the book that the movie was based on. And I lived with my family in Boston in what year was that? 1979. So like shortly after Jaws came out, and so we made the trip. We went to Martha's Vineyard, and it was still fresh. Like the movie was still fresh, so there was like lots of Jaws related paraphernalia there, and the beach, going to the beach where the shark attacks happened, and all that stuff. Like that was a real and I thought it could have been the basis for the next movie where it's like now we're now it's, and they don't call it, what do they call it? It's not Martha's Vineyard,
So
it's
the Amity Islands.
Amity. Yeah. And so I thought that could be a cool, like the monetization of the original shark, and then having like the mayor's the bad guy. So the
Yeah.
mayor would be like, what do you mean? This is great for tourism. It's great for, like he never learned his lesson.
Yeah, I know, of course he
Yeah,
does. That's a fucking great idea. Much better than what they actually did with Jaws 2.
Well, by the way, what was the story in Jaws? Just another, should we have, there's another one now, right?
Yeah, but it was
Had a baby or
the teens got in trouble in Jaws 2. The teenagers get out on a raft or something, and they're floating out to sea, and the shark is following them. So they have to go out there and rescue the teenagers is the main thing in Jaws 2, which is again very boring. And it tries to recreate all these elements, like it shows things. It's like, oh, they just kind of looked at the movie and copied the shots. Oh, we need shots of people at the beach, but all the shots of the people at the beach seemed boring and uninteresting because Steven Spielberg didn't shoot it. Like he has just got a way of shooting movies and framing shots and setting this stuff up that's so cool, and it does not come through in the second one. Even though I think they got the guy who directed it was the guy who actually was maybe DP on the first film. Anyway, but the third film is actually my favorite sequel, other than Jaws. The third film is when they're at the aquarium and there's Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. And that's
it's
the
so
one.
horrible.
That's the one I saw as a kid that I loved. It made me want to go to an aquarium. When I was a kid, and I did go to the Vancouver Aquarium shortly after I seen that film. And it was, yeah, I really do like Jaws 3D. It was the 3D entry.
Right. It was
There's
3D.
a lot of stuff crashing, a lot of glass going.
Yes, the glass. I do believe I saw Jaws 3D in the theater. The glass the glass was a major moment for sure. But then Michael Caine showed up in Jaws: The Revenge, right? Part 4. Yeah, and that is a true piece of garbage.
Absolutely.
Where it turns out the shark can track people on land and like and go to whatever body of water you travel to get its revenge.
Yes, including like hundreds of miles away.
Right.
Anyway, all right, let's.
Yeah. And the movie does not explain what happens if Jaws wants his revenge on you and you move to Nebraska or whatever. Then what does then the Jaws just sit?
Should have done right.
Right, exactly.
Yes, so this moved to the middle of the country, and then start with botherous.
Jaws just sits in the water waiting for you to vacation at the beach or whatever for his revenge. Yeah, that's what a horrible movie that is. How many there's more than that though too, isn't there? Or is that the
there's only been 4 Jaws movies, only ever 4.
Boy.
And that
Michael Caine was not present to get his best actor award at the Oscars because he was shooting Jaws 4.
Yeah.
Famously.
Yeah.
So what a bad decision maker Michael Caine was back.
But it paid for something. He joked that it paid for some house or something like that.
Yeah.
Joked about that. Anyway. Okay, let's move on to our main topic. I want to talk about streaming music today, Kenton, and about how most people listen to music, which is on a streaming service of some kind. And this is jumping off of an article from the Hollywood Reporter. It says Apple Music head calls it crazy in quotes. Other streaming platforms offer music for free. As a company, we look at music as art, and we would never want to give away art for free. It makes no sense to me. Apple Music head Oliver Schusser said during a keynote at an annual meeting, blah, blah, blah. So basically he's saying like Apple Music is a streaming service that charges a monthly fee. They do not have a free tier like Spotify does, a free ad-supported tier like Spotify and YouTube. And so he's kind of basically saying like it's immoral to give it away for free the way these platforms are doing, and that everyone should charge. What do you think about that?
Well, I pay for all my music. Let's start with that. So like that's one of the throwbacks as a music fan that I continue to do because I just prefer that. And I will buy an album on iTunes. I do that a lot. I still buy some CDs, not as many as I used to. But I still pay for it and I want to own it. I want to own it so I can play it whenever I like. So I don't, and I get every once in a while I get an email from Amazon saying you are not using all of your Amazon Prime benefits, and the thing that I'm not using is the music streaming. And one day I was like, should I look at this? Don't feel like it. And I actually think like that even when you pay for streaming, it's still ripping off the artists. So I don't think you can say it's the streamers who do it for free that are ripping off artists. I think all of the streamers one way or another rip off artists because they're online saying how little they get from streaming. People with massive worldwide hits make $1,000 a year.
Yeah, yeah. So even Apple Music is not much better than the rest of them, is what you're saying. Even though they don't free option.
Well, how about the fact that even iTunes takes 40% for it? And I mean, it's going to take something because you're using its platform, so that's not surprising.
Mhm.
But to get on your moral high horse and say, "Whoa, this is valuable art," and then not really pony up the cash that, like, how much is it worth? I guess then becomes the question.
Yeah, and I think that's different for different people. Like you are a much you listen to music much more than I do. I'm a more casual music listener. I only listen like when I'm doing chores around the house or maybe walking and stuff like that. I don't listen a lot. And so I do use the ad supported version of Spotify for my music. I just kind of it's there, it's easily accessible. I don't find the ads annoying. I because I like advertising and I like to listen and I like to study it. I like to make fun of it if it's a stupid ad. If it starts with a question, I answer the question no.
Of course, you got to.
All the time. My kids get annoyed when I do that. But it's like I mean, I don't it doesn't bother me. To me, advertising is a part of the ecosystem because it's the same as radio, right? It's the same as when you listen to the radio, you listen to this music for free, you're not paying for it, but the trade-off is you listen to the ads and then the advertisers get value for their money. But and to me, Spotify is the same thing. It really does kind of feel like the same thing. I think they're doing a better job. They have less frequent commercial breaks. Will have like only a couple of ads instead of 3 minutes of ads like you'll hear on the radio. So in a lot of ways, Spotify is doing radio better than radio right now. Someone in my class had the idea actually of saying, why don't radio stations just go on Spotify? Like, why isn't there a channel on Spotify where I could just hit and find all my local radio stations? Like, that's a good question. Because that could be a thing.
I know. I don't know if they still do it on I mean, you can go to any website of any radio station and stream
Sure.
or whatever. And I think at one point iTunes used to have dedicated radio channels. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That was a long time ago.
Well, they still have something like that in Apple
Yeah.
Music. They have like DJs and stuff like that. They did right at the beginning of Apple Music. That was a big part of it, and they were kind of recreating that feel to it. So yes, they did do that.
But the other problem is, for I mean, and if you're talking about radio stations, the problem there is, I mean, people are loyal to a station, unlike TV where they're loyal to a program. So you're loyal to a station. So that doesn't, so then now you're just streaming a single station, really, is what you're doing because people don't have time to stream hundreds of stations or
Well,
like
that's what that's the product of these streaming services become is this one thing on your phone that allows you to do all these different things, any music at your fingertips, and it is something worth paying for. Like I will say that I know a lot of people who do pay for this. A lot of people. When I survey students, most of them, I say, how many people here use the free version? Almost nobody does, because most of them are on their parents' Spotify plan,
exactly.
right?
Parents are paying for everything. Let's be honest.
There's that. So then that's happening a lot. But it's interesting. My girlfriend and I, we drove out on the weekend out of town. We were going to an event outside the city, and so we were driving for a while. And she said I could play my music on her Bluetooth player, and my Spotify included ads. And she's like, after like two ad breaks, she's like, "Do you want to just like pick out some music on my?" Because she didn't want to hear the ads. And her thing is YouTube music. She subscribes to YouTube music, which is I think $10 a month or something like that. And she feels it is absolutely worth it because she has all her playlists, she has everything there. She does not like the ads. She does not want to hear ads in the middle of her music. And it's a service worth paying for in her mind. Right. So I mean, I know YouTube does not give great royalties to artists either. But this does seem to be kind of the common way people are consuming music, right, Kenton? Like they're not going to the radio. They're not buying physical media anymore, unfortunately. Although, wait, I'll have to think about that in a second. But they're streaming. They are basically streaming it on Spotify, YouTube. Those are the two main ones. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? Tidal, is that still a thing?
I don't know if it is. And for a long time, SoundCloud, and like that was a mark of cool bands at one point. I remember kids in the class
Their
were
own
like,
stuff on SoundCloud. That's
right.
more legit because that's like closer to the artist than Apple Music, right? I don't feel like Apple
Yeah.
Music is the same thing.
Yeah, but oh, this week I went to the Jazz Fest free stage
Oh, yeah.
to see one of our former students. His name is Rain, Rein, and he was playing. He's a crooner. He was crooning to some hits on the on the stage, including "Girl from Ipanema."
Hmm.
And so that he was a true crooner, and he during or between the songs, he's like, "This is a song I wrote, and it's available on Spotify for anybody who wants to check it out," which I have not done yet, but I will do. And that would have been a few years ago, probably SoundCloud. It probably would have been. You can listen to me on SoundCloud, but and for a long time on SoundCloud, I was finding like cool things, cool places, like including there was a place that collected great audio ads. So when my students complained about like all audio ads are terrible, I'd go, "Oh, really?" And then I go to that channel and play them something. But that seems to have eroded
Yeah.
in recent times. So I don't think so. I don't think there's as many. But I also think that students in recent years have expressed more interest in physical media.
Yes.
Because they have not seen it before, so it's more interesting to them. And so I will bring like so every once in a while I'll find out I have a double a CD, like I've bought a CD twice, or I get a free CD from the magazines I subscribe to, and I'm like, play it once or burn it to my laptop and kind of go, wow, I'm done with this. And I'll bring it to class, and there's always somebody who will take it. There always is. And some people are more enthusiastic than others. Like some people want my newspaper when I'm done with it, kind of thing. So it's and magazines like that. There's more interest in that this year, I have to say.
Physical media is
So,
like a big resurgence. Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought.
no, I was just gonna say, I just think physical media is better for music fandom. Like I love Devo. I've got all the Devo albums. I've got Devo action figures up behind me. Like I love Devo. That's how I show that I'm a Devo fan,
Great.
right? But if I'm just streaming Devo, I don't know. Like, sure, I could listen to the music streaming, but somehow it seems more passive than actively going out there and collecting the music by the band.
Yeah, especially if you're at a show and the person's selling their CDs there. Like if Rain had CDs for sale at
Yeah.
that performance, that would be a great way to sell. And then you have the feeling that they're making more money off of that than, whoever is doing the streaming stuff. My 16-year-old Shannon loves physical media. She loves CDs. She's been listening to, I bought her CDs and a CD player for her birthday. So I bought her, and she likes the hard stuff, Kenton. I bought her Slipknot and Pantera for her birthday. A CD that I owned, Vulgar Display of Power, that I owned as when I was her age. I like that's very cool. I think like this is the kind of music I wasn't totally into heavy metal, but I did like some heavy metal. And Pantera was one of the bands I liked, so it's very cool that my daughter also likes that music. But yeah, the physical media thing is a big thing for them, and they say because in our school system right now, cell phones are banned in school. Right, so they're not allowed to listen to the music. They used to be able to listen to the music on their phones, but they are allowed to have a CD player. So now all her friends have Discmans, and they bring that to school, and they're making mixes. And she did that too. I bought a CD burner for our computer, this external drive thing that can plug in, so she can burn discs for her friends. So like they were doing like mixtapes like we used to do, that kind of stuff. And they're having a lot of fun with it. And so we do go, like I'll go when I go thrifting, I'll check out the CDs, but there's never much there. It's usually picked over pretty well. But yeah, I have gone a few times now to Sunrise Records to buy new CDs for her and for her friends. She's bought some CDs for her friends as gifts as well. So there is a bit of a resurgence going on there for physical media.
Well, used CDs are cheap too, so that helps as well. Well, I mean, we have Into the Music in the Exchange District, which is a really good music store, and then Entertainment Exchange at Grant Park is a really good one too. And it's amazing. You go there on a Friday. We're recording this on a Friday, so maybe I will even go there on a Friday. But You go there on a Friday and you actually see tons of people buying DVDs and buying music, buying CDs and records. They've got record selection as well. And it seems to be folks who maybe they don't stream movies, maybe it's just as cheap to buy a single DVD as it is to rent a movie online kind of thing. And so it's kind of cool to see it. There's a lineup of people every week buying their stuff.
You know, they had DVDs there. I'm gonna have to go check that out.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it's good. It's actually a good selection. They've kind of changed the layout of the store recently. So you walk in and they've got CD box sets of musicians right there, and it's pretty
But I
good.
know that, yeah, last time I was in there, which was a while ago, they had like a little DVD section, but it was all like concert DVDs and music
Yeah.
related stuff. So there wasn't like movies, but if they've expanded into that, I'll definitely
Check
I want
it
to know.
out.
You mentioned Rain, and it's
Yeah.
interesting. You talk about how, like, yes, people like Taylor Swift aren't making very much money off of a streaming service because they only give her pennies on the dollar or whatever for the streams. But for someone like Rain, he just wants to get his music out there, right? So he's just
Mhm.
happy people listens to it. It's not about making money; it's about promoting the music. And then maybe later on, he'll have a concert, and people who like his music will come to his concert, and that's how he makes his money. That's how most artists really make money these days, right? Is in the touring and the concert and the merchandise and that kind of stuff. And I think that's kind of become accepted. Like there's not crazy record deals where you're making, millions of dollars on and with a signature and that kind of stuff. That's not really happening anymore, as far as I know. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe it is. But like generally speaking, if you are a musician and you want to get your name out there, putting it on Spotify, you have to put your stuff on these streaming services. It is just where everything is. You have to go where your audience is, and the audience is on these streaming services already. I am.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. And they always say if you want to really support your favorite artist, the best way to do that is to buy music at the concert
Yep.
because then you pay for a concert ticket, which they like. They generally keep 100% of the thing that they sell at the concert, although that might be different at big venues. I'm not sure. At arenas, they might take a cut. In fact, they probably do take a cut.
Probably do, yeah.
Um, but I mean, that's a good thing that you can do to support artists as well.
It's a free
Um,
advertising for the artist, right? If you buy a t-shirt
yeah,
with the logo on it, which is like that Shannon, like half her wardrobe. So,
yeah,
so, but that's like it shows your fan. It's a good way of expressing your fandom of the band, letting other people know
yeah.
about the band or the group or whatever. And yeah, some of that goes towards the artist. Even if they're like selling like a download code, sometimes you'll see that at a show. It's usually through something like Bandcamp where they'll get like a better cut of it or a better percentage than they would through Spotify, right? So
Yeah.
even better to do it that way than to just listen to it on Spotify.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, buying merch is good too. Although but musicians have the same problem that lots of things do, which is um like the marketing of music got carried away for a while, for quite a while. Like I want the blue Paul McCartney record. I want the white Paul McCartney record. I want the yellow Paul McCartney record. And this kind of like buying the same music because it's a different color shtick and like all of that stuff. That's also, that leaves a bad taste in people's mouths as well. There's a guy on YouTube. I don't know his name, but he created controversy this week because he went to buy the new Pulp album, and so he bought it. It was expensive, and he's like, "What the hell? There's no tracks listed on this thing." And then he realizes he's bought the listening party edition of the record, which you could only get at the music store. And he's like, so he goes, "This is on me." But I just want the tracks. I want to see what the tracks are. I don't know what side one and what side two are because it doesn't say it on the record. And then people went crazy online and said like you got a limited edition, so what are you so mad about? And you're taking it too hard. This is a first world problem, like all of that stuff. But I think it's a symptom of a larger thing, which is people aren't quite sure what they're even buying anymore. Because it's true, some of these records, like Taylor Swift has that new version of her record. Nobody knows what's this new version? It's remixes, what is it?
The version that
And
she
I
makes
think
money off of, Kenton, that's the difference. She gets the royalties from it instead of whoever owned the royalties before. Isn't that what that is about?
originally, but then oh no, pardon me, Charlie XCX has
Oh,
her Brad album, and then she has the Not Really the Brad album, and then she has, and it's it's honestly very confusing to people, I think. And I think when people buy the same album by mistake because they think it's a new album, that's a problem. I just think the music marketing has also like, and then you've got dominant artists who are doing this, and then all the little artists who are kind of can't compete with that stuff. So I think marketing and music, there's so much to be said about it, but it's tough. Like I think artists have been victimized on both sides of this. And
But one thing I'll say, as far as like having the ads in Spotify goes, is that I will occasionally hear an ad for an artist. That's part of the, like, they can just, an artist can, again, Rain could make an ad for his music and put it on there and say, listen to my new album on Spotify. It's not very well targeted, I would say. Quite often it's a country music artist, more often than not. I don't know why that is, but I don't like country music and I wouldn't listen to any country music artist. But yeah, quite, you'll hear the ad and it'll be right before the ad where Spotify tells you that you should upgrade to premium,
yeah,
right? Which is what they run when they have no other ads to run, which happens quite often to
yeah.
me. And it happens quite often where I'll hear ads on Spotify from other parts of the country, like BC or Vancouver specific ads, or Calgary, and I'm like, that's just come on, waste of money for those advertisers because I'm not in the right city for that. But I generally don't mind the advertising, but maybe it's not enough. Maybe I should be paying for a music streaming service, Kenton.
Well, how about this? On a I still have a cable TV subscription,
Right.
which by the way, I'm going to look into next week because I'm like, I don't need all of these channels, but I think the last time I looked into it, it was just as expensive to get rid of channels as to have them.
Well, after you do it, let's talk about it on the podcast because I want to
Yeah.
have this discussion about, is it worth it for cable anymore? Let's have that conversation.
Yeah, and I'm actually worried what I'm going to discover. I've sort of been putting it off for a whole year. I know that it needs to be done, but you're just like, oh, it's so painful to have to figure it out. I know for a fact there's some that I need to get rid of because it's just what am I paying for? But there's music streaming later on the suite of channels, right?
Oh yeah.
So you can choose like 80s music, 90s music, and it's just part of your cable package. And I've definitely been at people's homes who have the TV on set to one of those channels, and that's their music mix. And so you are paying for that with your cable subscription. But once again, I don't know what are those artists getting paid for that? I don't have a clue.
They'll probably get SOCAN fees in Canada, which is
Right.
a fee that all the radio stations, anybody who plays music and licenses music has to pay. But that's a percentage of the profits of the company. So that's probably a fraction. It's again, it's like Spotify, it's pennies on the dollar. So it's not really anything that they're making money from. That, by the way, Kenton, that is also offered for free on the fast streaming, like Roku and Plex and all of those channels.
All right.
Pluto TV, they all have a streaming. They've now got 80s and 90s, like an MTV that just shows like 80s and 90s music videos, which is pretty cool. So basically it's just like a rehash of that. And there's all kinds of other stuff. So there's a lot of competition out there for streaming music and for listening to music in different places.
I think people might be paying for stuff they don't even know they have as well. Like I don't know if it does anybody get up to channel 700 or whatever to find the music. Like I don't think even I know it's there and I don't go there. I just generally here's news, here's sports, here's movies. Like that's kind that we all have sort of if you have a cable package, you kind of learn like the six channels you watch the most, and then the rest of it's kind of like a big mystery, big question mark. Like, where do I see this? Where do I see that?
Yeah. People,
So back to the original premise, like the Apple guy saying it's morally wrong. Is that what he said to stream?
it's crazy that these other people offer it for free.
Well, I mean,
Morally wrong, yes.
there's always been I could have a house party and just play my CDs, and should everybody whose ears hear the music, like that's the thing. It's such a tough one. Music is such a tough one. And once again, when it was tangible, you were buying something and you're like, I have a CD that I can carry around and play wherever I am. That seemed like people would pay for that. And when it became an invisible file, it didn't seem like so many things. It didn't seem like something you wanted to pay for anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I used to pay for tape singles, Kenton. I used to buy like a single was like because I was young and didn't have a lot of money. I could only afford to buy one song and then maybe whatever was on the B side, which I always kind of liked actually because there was always some unreleased song that they had
Yeah.
on there. Yeah, there was definitely something to that, and I used to really enjoy going down to HMV or whatever music store, Music City, in downtown Winnipeg with the Cellar. Remember the Cellar?
Oh
They,
yeah.
these were all the alternative music was. There's oh man,
Well, our downtown for a period of time was based on video game arcades and music stores.
yeah,
Like that was stitched together on the main part of our downtown street, Portage Avenue, mostly Portage Avenue. That's where there was like 6 record stores, music stores, whatever you want to call them, and then video game arcades, and then all you can drink root beer at A&W, which is perfect there, like your Saturday is made, and a porn theater next to that. So that was good.
I
I don't know who that wasn't for the kids, that part, but
don't have
that
to
was
say there's quite a few. There was a lot of normal theaters as well downtown.
oh yeah, oh yes. Yeah. Oh, that's true. I would add movie theaters in general to
Yeah,
that mix.
yeah.
But the porn theater was right next to the all you can drink root beer. So that's just I don't know. I don't know what that was about. Just for the kids. It's there for the kids. But I miss that. I miss all those music stores together. Like that was a great Saturday going from music store to music store, just looking around and putting a few quarters into the video games. Like that was good stuff. I think people who were around to see that are probably still very passionate about video games and music.
Yeah, and that's and the physical media aspect of it as well. Like I think that we've lost something. All these experiences have become digital now, right? All of
Yeah.
you, we don't go anywhere in person. It's all downloadable on our phone, our computer, or our TV. And so there's something missing there. Like I always say, I really miss the video store experience of going to the movie store and looking at the shelves and seeing what's out and choosing a film that way, as opposed to the Netflix crawl, which can go on forever and you never decide. You just sit there on your couch comfortably and zone out while you scroll through all these endless films and never pick anything. And it's so frustrating. I hate that. So I
Yeah.
do wish like video stores would come back in some way.
Well, you could always talk to people at the video store
Right. Yeah.
and ask them what's good
Yeah.
or if the movie was all rented out, they'd have like an alternative idea for you. Like and also the pressure once you rented a movie, the pressure to watch it. Like now on Netflix, you're right, you don't have to watch anything. And oftentimes you watch nothing because there's too
Start
much.
20 minutes in, you're like, oh, I don't want to watch this and turn it off. Because when you rented a movie, you watch the whole thing because you rented it, you have it. Why would you not? Why would you turn it off? Right?
You have it for 24 hours in some cases, sometimes less than that, I remember. Originally you had it for even less than that. Like it must be back next morning kind of thing. And so the time pressure was on and the monetary pressure of I paid for this. So like this is I better watch it.
Late fees, Kenton. Remember late fees. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay. Let's wrap up with some recommendations this week. What do you have to recommend?
You go first on the recommendations. As
Well,
as usual. It's better when you go first.
so it gives you time to think.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I've got a couple things, but I'll say that I started this week. I watched. I'm looking for more stuff to watch on Netflix because my kids like Netflix. There's a few shows on there they want to keep watching, so I still continue to pay for it. Like I evaluate this and look at my streaming services and say, is it worth keeping this? And so if I'm gonna pay for Netflix, I'm gonna watch more shows on it. So I started watching The Last Kingdom on Netflix this week, and it's a really good show. Have you watched it?
I've not.
Okay, this is it's like an old school like medieval times. I don't know what time period it takes place in. It's when the Danes invaded England, and so the Vikings of it's kind of like Vikings a little bit. There's even a guy named Ragnar Ragnarsson, which it might be the same guy. I don't know if there's a real guy who was named that, but anyway, it's a little bit like Vikings, where it shows these guys invading England, but it's told from the perspective of this kid who is taken prisoner by the Danes, but then he's raised as one of them, so he's grown up as a Dane, but he still knows all the stuff about England. So it's actually quite funny at times when they're trying to explain, like, to these guys, these Vikings, essentially, the like different things about Christianity and what it means to be baptized and stuff like that. Because this is at a time where like Christianity is huge in England. That's all they really are everyone is Christian. So that's kind of their big thing about they keep calling these guys pagans and they're invading. So the last kingdom is Wessex, which is in the south, and it's the last place in England where the Vikings have not yet invaded. They've gone everywhere else, they've taken over everywhere else. They've kind of like instilled like we're gonna stay here and take your land and take your resources and stuff, and you're gonna pay us, and in return we won't destroy everything, is what they're saying. But Waxdisk is the last kingdom, and so there's this one character when he kind of gets there, and it's a really good story. There's a really interesting characters. It's funny, and it's a great historical drama from that time period, which I've not watched a lot of TV shows set in that time, so it's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's excellent. Good recommendation. We're talking about music today, so I'll recommend on YouTube. The channel is BBC Music, and so tomorrow is Saturday, June 21st. It's the finale of Later with Jules Holland for this year's. The seasons are really short now for that show. And so all of the musicians that have been, and the musicians show up, they play their sometimes current, sometimes hit songs, sometimes both. And I always say, why can't we have a show like this in Canada that just shows us the week's artists? And why can't we have that in America? Like, so I don't know what sort of happened to music TV shows. Anyway, there used to be some degree of that, and I think you could probably still do it. So that the final group of musicians will be on there this Saturday, and I think on Winnipeg time they usually go up about 8 o'clock in the evening on Saturday. Like, sort of, they appear one at a time, I guess, as it's broadcast or after it's broadcast in the UK, which of course is earlier than us.
Okay.
So they sort of pop up in the evening, and I love it. I discover more new music through Later with Jules Holland, because he'll have like artists of renown from around the world, and oftentimes you've never even heard of the artist, and you just discover like your new favorite musician kind of thing. So I'm going to recommend BBC Music. That I think Later with Jules Holland is collected as a sub-channel there, among other things. And Glastonbury is next week, I think, in England as well. And I do believe they always have, and I assume they will this year, post clips from the musicians there as well. That's also a great place to discover new musicians.
I wonder, like, we have CBC Music here. I wonder if it does something similar. Probably not for video though, hey? Like, CBC Music is an audio service. Oh no, now they call it CBC Listen. That's the name for it, CBC. Anyway, that sounds great. Check it out.
Yeah, I just like having. There's a host of the show, and we're gonna show you bands. That's what we're gonna do. It's like, and one's country, and one is rap, and one is rock, and who cares? We all love music.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, we're sort of missing that.
Yeah, that used to be huge, especially in the 80s when they had those video hits and those shows that would have the host talking about the music videos. But yeah, no more. It's too bad.
American Bandstand.
Yeah.
Saturdays. What happened to that?
No kidding, eh? Dick Clark died. That's what.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I think that's it, eh? Nothing else for today?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of the Media Nerds. I'm Dan Vadebunker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the door hit you on the ass.